So we have a 91 Suzuki Carry. We're going to replace this Japanese radio with this one here from Amazon. There will be a screw under there. There will be another one under there. Loosen those 3 screws so that I can pivot this piece out of the way to get another screw right there. All the screws were Phillips. This piece will now come out. So now that's out. What do we got here on the back of it? Connector there. We're going to probe those wires, figure out which one's 12 volts, which one's switched ignition, which one's ground. We're going to unscrew that one and that one to take that bracket off. And then there's little push tabs around there. We'll squeeze them and slide the radio from the bezel. So now we're left with the bezel here. And the radio's out. Next step, we're going to figure out which one of these wires is ground, which one is 12 volts, which one's ignition switched 12 volts. So with this particular truck, what we found, that grayish colored wire on the camera here, looks like it's on the right hand side. That was my 12 volts. The white with the black tracer, that was my switched 12 volts. The red is 12 volts when you turn your lights on. So that would have did the backlighting on the original radio. This other little wire here with that little sleeve over it, that was also switched 12 volts. So I don't have a ground here. Looks like I'll ground it on a metal bracket up under the dash here somewhere. And of course your antenna wire. So in the new radio, you have your antenna wire, your red and white RCA outputs. You have black, yellow, red, blue. Blue goes to an automatic antenna. I'm not sure if these trucks had that or not. Red goes to ignition switched. Yellow goes to battery positive, and black is your ground. So over here, there's 3 wires, your RCA, your antenna. Then here are those wires. So I won't use blue. I don't think this has an automatic antenna. Red will go to that ignition switched 12 volts. Yellow will go to the battery 12 volts. Black will go to a ground under the dash somewhere, a metal bracket or something like that. So strip them, twist them together, solder, heat shrink, and the good heat shrink that has the goo in it to seal the ends off. That wire is going to be unused, so I just folded it back over itself and tucked it in so it won't touch anything up under the dash. That's the one that is 12 volts when you turn your lights on, which would have normally backlit the factory radio. But as you can see, I cut the connector off of the factory radio so that I could splice it onto the new radio for a plug-and-play installation. No hokey electrical tape and butt connectors, none of that stuff. It's going to look nice, you know, do it the right way. Like I said, the blue wire was for the powered antenna. I'm going to tuck that away, you know, tape it off or whatever. Black wire is my ground. I'll have to find a place to ground it. And those I'll tuck away as well. Figure out how to mount it in the bezel. I just plugged it in temporarily to the ground that would normally be on the power outlet. Oh, it just slipped off right now. But the power outlet's down there. I'm going to tap into that ground circuit actually, since it's right there. There's nothing super close under the dash that's metal that I could run a tap a screw in to make it its own ground. So I might just tap into that, we'll see. But I plugged the antenna in, and on my particular truck the antenna mast is broken off. But it came in nice and clear, so. So the radio fits right in the stock bezel, no trimming necessary. On the back side, you can see the radio is much less deep than the factory radio. So that bracket there will not fit on here without, modification of some sort. I don't need it. That radio is heavier. This one's smaller, it's not as heavy. I bent these tabs over on the back side, and that'll hold it inside the bezel. Okay, so change of plans. I unpinned that top wire, that yellow one if you remember, the one that would turn on when you turn your headlights on, and I used that pin and soldered it to the ground wire coming off the radio and tapped into this other connector up under the dash. It had a red wire on the back and a black wire on the back. Red wire was 12 volts when you turn the headlights on, black wire was ground under all circumstances, so I figured I'll use that pin, solder it, heat shrunk it, and just tap into the ground there. That way this radio is strictly plug and play. Unplug, and it unplug the antenna, and it would pull right out, rather than splicing into the ground circuit of the 12 volt outlet, which means I'd have to cut it if I ever had to take the radio out, because I don't have a connector with me here to solder into place onto that circuit, so this will work just fine. So I got my switch 12, my constant 12, my ground. I'll plug the antenna in, and next up I'll button it all up. Now we're done. It's all mounted back in. Turn the key on, the lights up, power up. No. Okay, now it's officially done. I had to pop it right back out. I forgot to plug the antenna in and hook the 12 volt outlet back up that I had unhooked prior. So I turned the key on. Quite loud. Turn that volume down a little bit. Go to a channel that comes in clear.
So that scared me.
Okay, and I will tell you this
is brought from it ain't the same. We can hang around by the
mode, auxiliary, Bluetooth, FM, presets off the set, auxiliary, got a USB SD card, clock I gotta learn how to set. Everyone says it's pretty hard to set, but I got the instructions here, and yeah, it looks nice.